What's up, everybody? It is another episode of the 5280 podcast. And boy, howdy, man. The Broncos had its biggest game against the Kansas City Chiefs and its biggest victory in the last 10 years. And boy, is it going to be a fun one to talk about. Obviously not just for us, but any Bronco creator that is out there. I know, Gage, you do your stuff for Syndicate. Like any of the stuff that is out there, it's a fantastic time to get a chance to talk about this game that happened on Sunday when the Broncos faced off against the Chiefs. And man, fantastic time to be a Bronco fan. Before any of all information that is going to be coming across tonight, we want you to do a couple things. Exactly, balloons, please. We want to make sure that you hit the follow button for the MHRT Network on X, on Twitter. Make sure you hit the follow button for Gage and myself. His handle is right there at Gage Madrid NFL. Mine is at Cameron Parker PO. Make sure you also hit the subscribe button for the MHRT Network page over there on YouTube. I have a sneaky suspicion we're not going to get to 2,000 subscribers, but we still are at that goal where we want 2,000 subscribers by the end of the year. But you know, the best thing about it, we're not going to put it against you. It just rolls over into next year. So it's no harm, no foul. But no, so that's probably the most important things right off the bat. But Gage, obviously I know that I've been to a few games. The Giants game was certainly the best fan experience just in the overall moment and just seeing everything the way it unfolded in the fourth quarter. But take me through this game, because I got to think you were there. From just the fan experience, from what you were seeing, to how many Chiefs fans were there and them swallowing in their own tears. So just kind of give me this overall experience and everything from this Bronco and Chiefs games first and foremost.
I think this one thing is a pretty clear indication of how the game went. I didn't hear that stupid tomahawk chop chant once from Chiefs fans. I don't think I can ever say that from the time I've gone to a Kansas City Broncos game, and I believe that was like my 6th or 7th. So I've been to a lot of them, and that was the first time that I hadn't heard that chant. What I did hear was a loud, electric crowd. I was a part of that. I was screaming at the top of my lungs. My throat was scratchy. My ears were ringing afterwards. It was truly a playoff atmosphere at Empower Field at Mile High. Some of the big moments, of course, with Marvin Mims and that massive return, the big throw to Troy Franklin that put the Broncos in field goal range, and then, of course, when Will Lutz, as Brandon Perna would say, split the gooch to win the game. Those were just some of the loudest moments I've ever heard that stadium. It was incredible. I saw Cody Rourke posted a video on Twitter of
That's great, yeah,
glass vibrating. I mean, it was awesome. I was actually sitting up in the nosebleeds, the high nosebleeds, and I was sitting on the concrete because it was just a really nice area to sit, and it was shaking, dude, like shaking to its core. It was one of the most awesome atmospheres I've ever experienced at that stadium, and I've been to well over 50 games at that stadium in my lifetime.
Yeah, I have to think that was quite an experience, getting the chance to see that. By the way, Dak does a bunch of stuff for Bronco Bros. He appears on there every once in a while. He also is part of the Orange and Blue Network, so make sure you go check out the stuff they do for the Orange and Blue Network. By the way, Victory Lap, we're just kind of testing the waters, it seems like, for some of the vertical stuff. And actually, it seems like we're getting a little bit more viewers that way. So just kind of think there's some stuff that we're kind of testing the waters.
StreamYard, they released a feature where you can stream both horizontal and vertical simultaneously. I've been playing with it on Broncos Syndicate as well, and it's just a way to get extra engagement on the channel at the end of the day.
Yeah. It is definitely one where I kind of enjoyed it. It took me a little bit, like, last week when I was doing the stuff for Mainly, that I was just like, oh, this is cool. like and then obviously seeing it on the Twitter side. So yeah, we're just kind of experimenting a little bit. The hat that I'm wearing is a 3 Nails hat. I actually just got it at Shields. So if you are, I will say that if you guys want it and you guys are living in Colorado, you guys can actually go grab it at Colorado Springs Shields down there. So yeah.
They don't have one here in Denver.
Yeah, I funny enough, I was actually talking to my dad about it. I think that when you look at it, I think that it was like you would think there would be, right? Like, or at least like in Fort Collins or some of those like, other locations.
Yeah.
So so yeah, and I definitely am, I definitely would recommend it going to Shields. All right. So let's talk about this game. Gage, let's talk about this game.
Yes. Let us.
I think the best way to describe this game was the perfect game you can script from all phases. And I mean all phases. And the Broncos have had some complete games, up and down, when it comes to, some of their games at points this year. But given the magnitude, but given the importance of this game, given everything that had been surrounding it, the adversity, the criticism, whether it been, or everything that had been surrounding that week, from whether it had been the quarterback, whether it had been anybody surrounding just the special teams unit, every one of those members of the team responded. I was listening to DNVR, and they actually were going through and they were like listing their top 10. And I was even like thinking to myself, it's like, it's impossible to list a top 10 because you could literally go and as you're stacking through and picking players, it's like, oh yeah, this guy had a good game. Oh yeah, that's right. He also had a good game. So, I mean, it was about as picture perfect a game that the Broncos could have asked for.
Yeah, I would completely agree. Like, there were a lot of questions that needed to be answered in this game, and I'd say every single one of them got answered. Starting off with Bo Nix. He had a lot of doubters coming into this one, and even some people in Broncos country who have historically been Bo leavers, I've seen noise coming from them saying, ooh, we might have to pump the brakes, these last couple of weeks haven't been good. Bo Nix, every single time we have any of those doubts start to creep in, has one of the best games of his career afterwards. It happens like clockwork. And in this game, considering who he was going up against, the defending AFC champions, with Steve Spagnuolo as their defensive coordinator, somebody who blitzes like mad. Bo Nix has struggled against the blitz somewhat this year. He handled all of that stuff brilliantly. His footwork was impeccable. We saw his feet guide him through his progressions and get him to his third, sometimes even fourth read in the progression. That's really good stuff. We saw Bo multiple big-time throws downfield. The accuracy on the deep balls were perfect. Had a couple of negative plays where he got a little panicky. There was one where he had a turnover-worthy play. Cam and I were discussing that in the green room. Kind of had an opportunity to run, instead threw it. It almost got picked off. There was another negative play in there where he had a swing route open on the opening drive. Didn't throw it immediately, took a sack. The Broncos had to settle for a field goal. Later on in the game, he hit that same play, though, so I'm not concerned about that one. Yep. Any complaint on the level of Bo Nix is very nitpicky in this game. I'm seeing people like Bomani Jones, for example, say that he wasn't good in this game, and that's just not true. I'm even seeing people like Joe Rowles on Twitter, who's probably the biggest Bo critic out there. He even said Bo Nix was impeccable in this one. So if you got harsh critics of Bo saying he was good, he was probably pretty damn good, man.
Yeah, and it's kind of one where, if you have some of the harsher critics that are starting to kind of support Bo after this game and the game that he had, Bo had a really good game. And I think that that's like a really good game. And I really think we need to preface this because we've seen some and you and I've talked about it, and the four of us have even talked about it when Bo has had these comebacks in fourth quarters, right? Like, that is elite level quarterback play that you see in the fourth quarter from a quarterback side of things. And like, even then, like the Giants game, you can't really put into words just how good of a quarterback play that was in the fourth quarter against the Giants. You can't really put into words how good of a quarterback play that was against the Philadelphia Eagles. In that fourth quarter, scoring 18 points in Philadelphia, a place that is really hard to play. And then now you have the opportunity to dethrone the runner-ups in that Super Bowl. You already beat, if you will, the Super Bowl champions. Now you have a chance to beat the runner-ups, and you did. And the fact that they were able to play a complete game, and Bo Nix was able to play a complete game at such a high level, should give Broncos country such an excitement for how good their quarterback possibly can be. Because, to quote Dave Logan after getting a chance to listen to him with Benny Fowler, Bo took probably 2 to 3 steps forward in his development as far as being an elite quarterback. That was top 7, top 8 type of quarterback play in terms of either winning a Super Bowl, performing well in a Super Bowl. Everything that you see there was Bo Nix making every single throw. And frankly, you could argue to a certain extent that Bo was making the right reads at times in games. It was a tick 2 yards off. It was a tick 4 yards off. But what happened in this Chiefs game? He was crisp. He was accurate on those deep passes. Mr. Checkdown Merchant that everybody talks about, Gage, had a 96, almost 97%, if you will, grade from Pro Football Focus on deep passing. Like, he was accurate on those deep passes, which was the hallmark for how good of a game Bo Nix really had against the Chiefs.
I mean, we saw him ripping 35, 45-yard checkdowns, man. That's pretty damn good. But no, in all seriousness, like, it was really hard to identify any flaws in Bo Nix's game. So that's the biggest compliment that I can give him. He was flawless. He really was. And we talked about the footwork earlier. That's such a huge point. We've been having these discussions for weeks about Bo's feet just being off. He's not using his feet to guide him through the progressions. That step that he took, the fact that they utilized the mini bye to strip back to the basics and get his feet right, that's huge. And they've got even more time to correct some of that stuff because he can get even better in that area. And once he does, look out, because he can start cooking.
Yeah, well, and I think that this is ultimately a point that needs to be reiterated. And it may bleed some people's ears, but the amount that you hear it, but it goes to show you the marriage between a coach and a quarterback. And like the fact that you had the time off. And when we say it affected everybody, we mean it affected everybody. It wasn't just Bo Nix that it affected. Sean Payton would call some plays here and there. The offensive game plan would be, at times, these last couple of weeks, a bit archaic. Like, it was really rough on some of these games. Like, why are we calling plays in a certain situation? Or what are we doing situationally? What are we doing, Sean? You are not helping out this team. Sean also needed this break as much as anyone. And what does he do? He adds different wrinkles to the game and to this offense that we didn't get a chance to see very much before. And frankly, the execution on all the way around was just flawless because, there were times where I think that when you look at it just from the simple fact of like the execution, they didn't tip their hand. And typically, if you're seeing the roster and the construction of what is happening on the field, you would think that it's either going to end up being a pass or a run, depending on who's on the field. Example, little Jordan Humphrey, the new guy, was on the field, and more often than not, Gage, if little Jordan Humphrey's on the field, you would think that that's going to end up being a run, more often than not. They added a little wrinkle. They added a little wrinkle off of that, which was a play-action counter. Play-action counter with a corner route to Pat Bryant and some other routes that were dabbled in there as well. And they fooled the Chiefs. Sean played was playing chess while while others were playing right. Am I saying that right?
Chess while they were playing checkers. Yeah.
Yeah. He was playing chess while the Chiefs were basically playing checkers. I mean, like it was phenomenal how Sean called an excellent game. There was one moment that could have costed him, but I just think that when you think of just the overall game plan for Sean, that was also a flawless game plan for that head coach.
Yep. Sean's always got to have that one play in there. He's got to have that one cutesy trick play, that RJ Harvey throw to Bo Nix. It's like, why, dude? It's just not necessary when you're moving the ball well. You've got a third down and short situation. I believe it was on, or no, that was on second down, I think. It set up a third down, I believe. But still, you're moving the ball well. Why do you need to mess up your tempo by calling some cutesy trick play that depends on your running back delivering a perfect throw to your quarterback? It's probably not going to work out more often than not. I would much rather them just stick to more bread and butter stuff, especially when they get down in the red zone, because they've had some issues executing down there at times. That's one area where I would say we could criticize them a little bit in this game. They could be a little bit better in the red zone and just getting some of these more basic plays down there. But outside of that, it was really a flawless offensive game plan and mostly flawless offensive execution. The run game started off a little bit rough. It got better as the game went on. I'd still like to see a little bit more from RJ Harvey. He's still leaving some meat on the bone, in my opinion, in terms of bouncing stuff to the outside when he's got rushing lanes developing in the middle. Jaleel looked pretty good in this one. That was a positive. And then Bidet's Bidet at this point. You're going to get what you expect from him. And then I still feel like we could get a little bit more out of this tight end room. But all this stuff is very nitpicky. The way they're executing right now is conducive to winning football games. And they, quite frankly, dominated the Chiefs on that side of the ball. So it's really hard to complain.
Yeah. So, by the way, as far as clearing things up a little bit, we are actually not on our cell phones. This is just simply a format that is on StreamYard. So we are definitely not on our cell phones. If we were, look, see, I'm not on my cell phone. See?
Yep, I have two cell phones. Both mine are right here.
But no, like I said, it is just something that we're kind of just tweaking, and hopefully we can see if we can see some better numbers. And it seems like we are kind of seeing a little bit of some better numbers there. It's funny. I see Big Mike's comment here. I haven't seen a lot of people talk about that. I've only seen one. Frankly, if Bo Nix does not knock that ball down, that's the difference in the game, because that is a clear as day pick six by the Kansas City Chiefs. And you could argue Bo probably took a little bit too short on the play in terms of like turning it upfield or whatever. I don't know exactly how the play unfolded, or the play was supposed to unfold, if you will. But RJ Harvey threw up a moon ball, and Bo knocked it down. Maybe that's why they wanted to call the play, was just simply to advertise the fact, meaning from Sean, that Bo Nix is the perfect quarterback.
Hey, if Denver's got another injury in the secondary, man.
Is that Bo Nix could be wide receiver. He can play quarterback. He clearly can run the ball. He can also play defensive back too. So maybe that's the thing, is who needs Travis Hunter? You got Bo Nix, who's like the three-way player. Frankly, all we need to see at this point is a QB punt at this point from Bo. And who knows? Maybe you can actually pull it off. But I think that's just the one criticism that you hope doesn't backfire on you as the season's progressing with Sean, is just, if there's one thing at times that has been so excruciatingly bad, is he just gets too cute for his own good. And, I don't know when we'll see that play again, if we'll see it at all. I was actually surprised we didn't get a chance to see any RJ Harvey Wildcat. And the fact we actually got a chance to see a quarterback throw like that on a play, I thought was quite interesting when you're in the red zone in shortened field. I thought it was quite interesting. Frankly, if there was any pass, it was I was just thinking this as the week was progressing. If there was any pass that should have been done from RJ Harvey, it's the famous Tim Tebow play that people always do so much, which is
little pop-up.
just a little jump pass or whatever in the red zone. That I would have been okay with. Maybe not necessarily the in terms of the toss out and then the pass right back over to Bo Nix. But still, though, we're nitpicking. We're nitpicking. But I gotta say, man, though, that was such an incredible performance, because as we're kind of going down, everybody deserves praise so much for this game. And look, if my pal Jordan is watching this, I hope he's giving praise and slapping him on the rear, because Pat Bryant had himself a game. He had his best game as a Denver Bronco. That was his best game as a Denver Bronco. And I think that, no, it's not flashy. Bryant has not been flashy per se, but he has clearly gotten better week in and week out with this Broncos offense, and kind of been a little bit of a safety net. And frankly, you could argue the safety nets on this team are multiple. Evan Ingram, Courtland Sutton, and Pat Bryant are like basically the safety nets now, for Bo, and obviously there's the Troy Franklin of them feeding him a little bit more. But I mean, gosh, he's just continuing to get better week in and week out. And no, he's not the fastest guy in the world, Gage, but man, is he getting open right now. And you're starting to kind of see it more and more with this offense.
Yeah. I mean, he's a bigger target, so very quarterback friendly, and he is presenting himself open for Bo Nix, and he's getting those opportunities. We saw that deep ball connection. That was really sweet. Bryant did get shaken up on that play, but glad he ended up being okay on that one. But he's been catching pretty much everything that's going his way, even if it's just little short to intermediate stuff. He's got a really good rapport with Bo Nix on off-schedule scramble drill type plays. That's always going to get you more looks on offense. It's very evident that they trust Pat Bryant, and they believe that he's ascending each and every week, like you said. And Sean Payton alluded to that in his presser a couple of weeks ago. He said, we're seeing Bryant become a star right before our very eyes.
Yeah. That is true. That is true. And Moose River Hummer mentions that Tebow is 6'3" and RJ Harvey is about 5'7", 5'8". So that might put a bit of a damper on it, but it would have been interesting, I guess, if that would happen.
If you want to put RJ at Wildcat, why not put Bo at tailback next to him and run some sort of read option play?
That's probably at least that's at least probably in the back of some of that mind, if you will. But yeah, so I'm so impressed because of the game plan that you saw from the Broncos, with just in general, but with the wide receivers. To me, I think the other part of this too with Sean Payton that I thought was impressive was one of the arguments that was against him as well was he also had some personnel problems. Like, he would switch in personnel so often. And I don't know about you, Gage, but you were there, but it really did get the sense that he would do his personnel change, but it wasn't near as frequent as it was in the past. I mean, he kind of stuck in and trusted a lot of some of the guys that he, put forth, like, the Courtland Suttons, the Pat Bryants, the Troy Franklin, but he would just sprinkle in little Jordan Humphrey here and there. He would sprinkle, Evan Ingram, which he still needs more targets, but he would sprinkle Evan Ingram, there on even a few plays, but there was few and far less personnel, and it significantly helped. It was pretty abundantly clear looking at that it affected the timing in a good way for some of those wide receivers.
And I think one reason for that is they were starting to utilize more no huddle or just those little half-ass muddle huddles. It worked. It worked really well. And I think it's kind of leaning more into that fourth quarter offense for the first three quarters, when you're going more up tempo, the playbook gets a little bit condensed and you're just kind of running your bread and butter stuff. And they weren't doing it on every single down, but they were doing it a lot more in this game. That does limit the personnel rotations. It also limits just what you're calling, and it limits what the defense can call as well. So it makes it a lot harder to call defense when the offense is running these half-assed muddle huddles. So, yeah, I think that Sean Payton noticed that maybe not going up tempo as much and mixing in the personnel every other play is more to the detriment of this team. I've said before that defensive coordinators think that it's a big problem because they don't know how to match it up. They don't know if they match up with base or sub, how they want to do it. So there are advantages to mixing up personnel, but right now it seems that it's causing more issues, and just the overall tempo and how they're executing the offense. I think that running more of this up-tempo stuff and not mixing up the personnel is going to be the way to go moving forward.
Yeah. We'll touch on the Chiefs and whether or not they make the playoffs or not, but here at the latter part of the show. But yeah, and I think that when you do that, and this is a point that you and I made, and I've even made it too on the other show that I do, mainly Broncos, and that's when you do all these personnel changes. When you do all these personnel changes, you're making it seem like from what I can tell from my eyes, is also like the reps aren't getting there with some of these players. So if you're leaving them in the game, you're extending their reps a little bit more, right? You're extending their reps a little bit more. And when you do that, you're getting them more comfortable each and every play. And then because of that, because they're getting uncomfortable, they're getting comfortable with their quarterback, they're getting comfortable with their scheme, their route, all the concepts. And I think that it's been very advantageous in that. And I think there's also a large point in that personnel and why also too, that it's been probably not worked as much. And that is probably the biggest, one of the other biggest things is when they came out of the huddle, Gage, you didn't have 7 seconds on the clock, 8 seconds on the clock, 9 seconds.
I don't think they burned an early timeout in this game, and I don't know if they've ever gone a game without burning at least one early timeout.
Yeah, they got out of the huddle quick. I mean, they knew exactly what they wanted, either 2 plays down the line, one other play down the line. They were always thinking 2 plays ahead. That is the sign of an elite offense. That is the sign of an elite structured offense. And it definitely paid off. And you could just tell from Bo's perspective is, we know he's a film junkie and a film guru. And the fact that everything had been so muddled and jumbled together when it came to Bo, you're helping out him too. He's like one of the biggest cogs of that because, look at it from that perspective, because I think when you look at it, maybe they were running so fast that his mind was moving like a NASCAR, driver, to where it's moving so fast that even he couldn't even function. And the fact that, you're starting to kind of see things in that perspective and the way things have been happening in and out of huddle after that Chiefs game, that's how it should be operating from here on out. Because whether I could disagree with the shotgun perspective in shotgun, out of shotgun, you do that more often than not, you are still making your quarterback more comfortable than not.
Mm-hmm, for sure. And I'm glad you touched on that because it just felt like Bo wasn't overthinking out there. He was just playing free and playing confident. That's the best thing for Bo moving forward, because if you overthink, that's when you're going to make mistakes. If you go out there and just play free and trust what you're seeing, that's when you're going to have your best results. And we saw that from Bo. We saw that confidence, that swagger back. And it's almost like that Bo against the Raiders, the big scary eyes. I don't fear anything. We got that Bo back in this game, and that was really good to see.
Yeah, it was. The other wide receiver that we need to touch on, he's frustrating.
Mm-hmm.
he's frustrating, But you can understand from the Broncos' offensive side of things, he's got a really high ceiling. Like, he has got a really high ceiling. And I don't mean to make this a full circle moment, but when I was saying that Troy Franklin, and this was like when he was drafted, ideally that he probably was going to end up being your Judy replacement the way that he probably was as a route runner, his separation, how fast he was, how he could be able in the middle part of the field. It's understandable now when you see how they're force feeding him that you just still at times wish it was Judy as a Bronco there, but how things could have operated had Judy been there. Because again, like we're at the point with Franklin where it's frustrating, but the moment he suckers you in and you criticize him, he's very much like his quarterback in this. The moment you sucker him in and you criticize him is the moment when he rises to the occasion. Like, he rises to the occasion. And frankly, at this point in Troy Franklin's career, there really isn't anything he can't do. The only thing that he really needs to work on is his hands. He needs to be focused solely on the jugs machine because he has all the support, it seems, in that locker room, whether it be the defensive side of the ball and the offensive side of the ball. Bo Nix loves him. He's loved him ever since college. Sean Payton loves him. The only person that is going to push Troy Franklin to be even a better version of himself is Troy Franklin at this point. And that, frankly, should be the biggest cause of optimism for a lot of Bronco fans, because if he can get those hands figured out way more consistently and maybe, bulk up a little bit more weight, Gage, I think he's going to be a problem. Because if they are focusing on him more and more and more, yeah, I wonder how much of this trajectory of Franklin is just going to continue to be, upward and upward as things kind of progress more and more with the offense.
I talk about this with pretty much every young player on this roster on my channel. There are going to be peaks and there are going to be valleys, and we saw peaks and valleys in this game with Troy Franklin. A couple of really frustrating drops. I mean, Bo Nix dropped that one down the sideline. Really good throw. He doesn't catch it. Then he finally comes down with one down the boundary. That was really good to see. Again, one Bo just put right there and
rope.
Able to come down with it. That was something that I think boosted Troy's confidence. And then the play of the game, when they needed him most, Bo floated up there on that corner route, and instead of leading him towards the sideline, he threw that thing to the inside, knowing that Troy was going to be on the same page and turn around to get it. It was a perfect throw, a perfect catch, excellent execution from both parties involved, and that was the play that set the Broncos up to win the game. Troy came in clutch, just like Bo's come in clutch. You put it perfect, man. Even though we have some of these frustrating plays early on in the game, when it matters most, and after we have some of the criticism and some of the more adversity start to stack up, that's when these players tend to deliver and have their best moments.
Yeah, and I think that one of the other areas that's made this offense, and it's probably one of the reasons why this offense was so fun to watch finally, was like you saw, not to bring it a little bit on back to Sean Payton on this, but it's more so with the wide receiver room or with how they were operating the offense, was just, this is how the Sean Payton offense is. When we talked, we talked about this in the offseason about like, I think that the Sean Payton offenses typically that you think of are the Drew Brees offenses, where things get spread around to different parties of the offense. And what did we see in this Chiefs game, Gage? Like, we saw different pieces here and there, vital pieces of this offense be integrated in really key moments. They were never like, oh, Troy Franklin, the last 2 weeks. It was like, we're going to dabble in some Troy Franklin and still feed some Troy Franklin. We're going to dabble into some Courtland Sutton again because we need him back. So we're going to dabble into some Cortland Sutton and Pat Bryant. He's one of those guys that's like Franklin. He's our future. So we're going to dabble into Pat Bryant. And we also got an elite receiving back in RJ Harvey. Let's feature him as well. And also we have Evan Ingram. Again, probably still need to feature him a little bit more. But let's feature him on a tight end screen that we haven't seen in I don't know how long. So we're starting to kind of dabble a little bit more in some tight end screens with possibly Evan Ingram. I think you're starting to see a little bit more of that creativity. And so it was evident, maybe to kind of tie a knot on all of that, is that they needed that mini buy. Like they really needed that mini buy to just really hit that reset button just a little bit for that offense.
I mean, they had played so many games in a span of like 30 days, man. Everything just gets so condensed. You had that Thursday night game in there. That certainly didn't help matters. There's only so many looks you can run before it kind of starts to get stale and you need to go to some other areas of the playbook. And this mini bye week gave them the opportunity to self-scout, evaluate what's not really working so well, and make those necessary adjustments. This is a good coaching staff. They're going to recognize where the shortcomings are, and they're going to fix them. These fixes might not come overnight or between each game, but over the course of the season, a lot of these issues for the Broncos on offense especially are getting corrected. And I feel like we've gone this whole stream without talking about how incredible the defense was in this game. I mean, what they did on that side of the ball, dude, was freaking teaching tape on how you shut down Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs. They did not do anything well. The Chiefs didn't. And it was because Denver just out-executed them almost on every single snap.
Yeah, it was fantastic. I mean, there was really it was like you were watching I know we probably have some Raiders fans in here, but it's like if you were to watch a Broncos and Raiders game, the only part that was really frustrating for me was just the dink and dunk offense, because as a Broncos fan, you saw Derek Carr do it that way and win games that way when they, Vic Fangio was the defensive coordinator, and Fangio, or I should say head coach, defensive coordinator, but they were winning games against the Broncos that way. And so it's just so frustrating to kind of see that dink and dunk offense. And listen, it's bad, and we'll talk about it in terms of him, if you will. But it's bad when the sole focus of your offense for the Chiefs is a dink and dunk offense. Mm-hmm. And I should say a dink and dunk offense and penalty hunting.
Yes.
Because I am fully convinced, whether right, wrong, indifferent, on Riley Moss, or just in general, Patrick Mahomes on those deep shots, there were probably a few times in the game where a deep shot was worthy, pun intended. But it was more often than not when he was throwing a deep ball down the left side of the field, down the right side of the field, he was penalty hunting.
Yeah, and he literally was.
And that is the mark of a terrible, terrible quarterback play and a terrible, terrible offense. I just want people to realize that when you're relying on something else that's not even in your own game at that point in the game, that's a terrible quarterback play, and that is a terrible, terrible offense.
I mean, there was this Chiefs fan in the stands that was trying to talk shit out after both of those plays, and I was like, dude, he's literally penalty hunting. He's trying to get a flag right there. He's chucking it up and intentionally underthrowing the ball. We've got to stop rewarding quarterbacks for intentionally underthrowing balls to get penalties. It's freaking ridiculous. And on the first pass interference, the judge who threw that was the one on the other side of the end zone. It wasn't the one who was directly in front of the play who could see the damn hand placement.
Where have we seen this before?
Hate that. Yeah, where have we seen this before? The damn Giants game. I hate that so much. As far as I'm concerned, there are certain penalties that certain officials should not call. For example, offensive holding. The only ones who should be able to call that are the umpire, the down judge, and the head ref, the two in the backfield and the ones on the side. If you're all the way back in the defensive backfield, I'm sorry, you shouldn't be able to call that. Just like if you can't see the damn play, you should not be able to call pass interference on it. Absolutely ridiculous.
And we're not here to talk about, how possibly things are one-sided, because again, penalties were 10-10, but like you still have to, you and I say it, I don't know how long when we have this conversation, but it's like it has nothing to do with the fact that the penalties were 10-10 in terms of Broncos and Chiefs. It's the moment when stuff like it's the moment at when stuff like this happens, and you cannot tell me at certain points in this game that it was rigged. And I realize that, like, I hate to even use that word, but like, and obviously Will Lutz made the field goal, but just a simple play that could have gone from 4th and 5 to 4th and 2, where Courtland Sutton literally had 2 feet in bounds, and there are 2 referees in close proximity of the entire situation, and to say it's incomplete. And then the other side of this too is the first down, and they did rule it a first down, but it was a clear football length of a field of where it was on the field for a first down, but it was ruled a first down because by a pubic hair, like quite literally, like by like a really like small hair strand. I mean, like it was that close in terms of how it became, a first down. And then like
instead of Gene's territory using index cards, now we're using pubes.
Like, but no, it's just like it was beginning to be so ridiculous, the amount of time. And I mean, I probably, as things kind of watch things a little bit more and more, the illegal contact on Riley Moss for the pick 6 against Barron probably was worth the flag, kind of looking back on it with how he was holding it. And that is a Riley Moss critique. Like, he does hold a little bit more, and so he's going to end up having to work on that. But like, I just think that when you look at it just overall, and the structure of this defense, and then how they played despite all of that, Gage, it was impressive. Riley Moss was impressive. I think, look, Riley Moss has been impressive. Chris Abrams-Drain has been impressive. And I really think people really need to understand, whether they are Riley Moss haters or not, people really need to understand the impact of what this defense has done in Pat Surtain's absence.
Yeah.
They have not allowed a touchdown all but once, if I'm not mistaken, once or twice, in terms of that overall secondary. Like, they have been super impressive between Riley Moss, Chris Abrams-Drain, and Jahdae Barron. Barron really only had one bad rep in that entire game, and it was, against Kelsey, where he got him, I think it was on a zig route or something, and then he got open, and you could just tell Barron was really upset about it. But then all during that rest of the game, as you'd expect, Father Time started creeping up on Kelsey when he was, when Barron was in coverage, and Barron was neutralizing him. And I think that the part that I think we also should be focusing on here with Barron, they are using him everywhere. When we say everywhere, I mean, we kind of say that, Talanoa Hufanga might actually be some of the Joker a few times. Jahdae Barron is their Joker. Like, I looked at some of his snaps by position, and he played linebacker, chat. He played linebacker, right linebacker, left linebacker, and inside linebacker at times. He played linebacker, a corner that possibly could even be safety, and maybe even down the line. Like, he played corner, and he played such a great job in that game against the Kansas City Chiefs. And as things are progressing, you're starting to kind of understand why the Broncos really wanted to focalize on this. And it's funny, as we kind of round out all of this too, that we start talking about the defense, that we are at 45 minutes and we haven't even touched the MVP of this game,
Jaquan
McMillan.
Been freaking incredible this whole season, man. This whole year, he has made just a massive impact. In this game, it was just a microcosm of it. 2 big-time sacks, on nickel blitzes. The first one was on that Hail Mary attempt at the end of the first half. He comes free and puts Mahomes on his ass. And then big third down. Yeah, the end of the game, man. Big third down. Jaquan comes in and decks him again. And Patrick's tapping his head like, flag, give me a penalty, come on. Like, it was ridiculous. It was really
I know what Mahomes was doing. He wasn't signaling to the ref, hit me in the head. He's saying, "Hey, coach, take me out. Take me out.
Yeah.
Take me out.
No more, coach. No more." But no, man. Jaquan McMillan, the 2 sacks, the interception, where that was just a horrible decision by Patrick Mahomes. I have no clue what he's doing. And that was a true ball don't lie turnover after the first one was wiped out because of that penalty. And yeah, by law of the land, that was the right call on that penalty. But come on, it was so far away from the play. It had no effect whatsoever on the play. It does not excuse that Patrick Mahomes twice on that drive made horrible decisions and horrible throws.
I will say this, though. If they did not call that illegal contact, look, Mahomes may go down as like a top 3 quarterback, top 3, 4 or 5 quarterback of all time. When I say that might have been one of the worst throws I have ever seen,
it was bad.
That is one of the worst throws I have ever seen a quarterback make. And listen, we are Bronco fans. We have seen terrible Bronco quarterback play. That is as good as it gets in terms of a bad quarterback throw. He literally lofted it up there. Maybe he was penalty hunting on that one, but he literally lofted it in the air to Travis Kelce all alone, and Barron's just sitting there like, "Oh, thanks. I didn't know Christmas came early," and literally took it in for a score. And I just think that, when we talk so much about the preview of this game, Gage, it was about, can they get to Mahomes, right? Like, can they get to Mahomes? Can they pressure Mahomes? Can they get to him? And they didn't sack him 8 times, 9 times, whatever, but they did enough to rattle him. And, he was probably going to get his at times, but it's that Aaron Rodgers type of dynamic, right? Like, you have to bottle him up. You have to keep him in the pocket so that you can get to him. And the Broncos defense did that. And they even took away the big play. And that has been some of the biggest things in terms of the biggest pros in favor of Vance Joseph. Because now, just like Sean Payton, I want people to hear this stat. Ever since Sean Payton has become the head coach of the Denver Broncos, do you realize that he has now established home field when facing the Kansas City Chiefs? He is 3-0. That includes the Russell Wilson era. He is 3-0 against the Chiefs at home. So, the Vance Joseph and Sean Payton relationship, even from that side of things, has paid immense dividends. Vance Joseph has that Chiefs number right now in 3 games.
He does, man. He really does. Patrick Mahomes has struggled immensely. They've only allowed 1 touchdown, I believe, in the red zone in the Vance Joseph defensive coordinator era against Patrick Mahomes. That's pretty freaking incredible. I'll say it. Patrick sucked in this game. He was not good. He was terrible. Overthrows galore. There was one other bad play that Barron had in this game where he got torched on a deep post by Xavier Worthy, and Pat overthrew it by 10 yards. It was a really bad throw. The 2 interception plays, even though one of them didn't count, they were still both really bad decisions and really bad throws. He was awful in this game. And the Broncos would have had even more sacks if the Chiefs' tackles weren't holding on every single play. They did start calling it towards the end of the game, but you could have probably called holding 10 times on the Chiefs.
Every play, literally every granted, there's a lot of plays that stand out to you as far as when they say that they were holding on every play. There's a play that's kind of making the rounds right now on social media where it's literally a tackle. It is literally a tackle. You have Josh Simmons, who is like has him by the shoulder and then turning him around and then hugging him at that point.
Yep.
And like that is a literal hold by layer of the law. Not because we're Bronco fans, by layer of the law. That is a clear holding penalty that they didn't call. And that was just one instance. The entire game, they had been holding Nick Bonito like it was no one's business. And they called it every once in a while, probably to just make themselves feel good. But like they could have had holding on every single play. And I know Schiller talks about that. They're just holding on every single play. But there was literally blatant holding every single play on Bonito, on Cooper. I can't speak specifically for Zach Allen and whatever, but like
there was one I saw where he was getting hogtied.
But it was really bad.
Yeah, it really was, man. Like the refs were swallowing their whistles in this one for the Chiefs. And there was another play. I'm surprised we haven't hit on it yet. Jaleel McLaughlin, he's in the backfield, and the tacklers got him for a second, but that whistle was so premature. Jaleel broke out of that and would have taken it at least for a first down, probably would have gone for a really big play because nobody thought the play was still going.
Yeah.
But, yeah, they blew that thing dead. It was ridiculous. I counted at least 5 officiating blunders that went against the Broncos in this one. I mean, the refs were trying to give this game to Kansas City. They really were.
Look, I need another angle. And look, I get the layer of the law. I need another angle of this because Sean is too good of a coach to understand this. But you do have coaches can be on the sideline. The angle that they showed on the TV broadcast, look, like I said, I need another angle, but it was like you were in the NBA and an offensive player is drawing a foul on a defensive player. To me, it looked like the referee. It looked like to me the referee was trying to draw the foul on Sean Payton. Again, I need another view of it, but that's what it looked like to me. It looked like the referee was trying to draw the foul on Sean Payton, and I know that coaches can stand on the sideline. I know they can, but it felt to me on another view, and I get it. I need more of a different angle on this, but it looked like the referee was literally drawing contact on there on Sean Payton just so he can throw that flag.
All right, I'm going to actually disagree with you on this one. You cannot be in that white line. That's where Sean was. You've got to be on the other side of the white line.
You know, I just needed more info on this because it's just from what we saw in that broadcast copy.
Yeah.
It was, yeah.
Oh, did the ref sell it? 100%. He sold it. He flopped. SGA style, he flopped. But that said, Sean's got to know better, and that's why NFL coaches have get that coaches. Because the head coach, they're going to be pacing down the sideline. They want the best look possible at the play. They're going to end up in that white area, but that's why Sean McVay, he's the most famous example. He literally has an assistant that's dedicated to keeping him off that white line. And so that one's on Sean for me, but the official definitely flopped and sold it.
And maybe that is something maybe Sean can get as his right-hand man when it comes to just knowing the sideline. But that just the play was crazy. It funny enough, it didn't actually affect anything because right after that turnover, the Broncos turned in a statement drive and went down and scored the touchdown after that interception.
Yep.
So one of the other sections and pieces of this team we need to talk about and slap him on the rear because of the game that he had, and that is Darren Rizzi. Listen, when we say that it was a complete game, it was a complete game for the Broncos in all facets. The Rizzler showed up for the Denver Broncos, and I love the wrinkle gauge that he put in there, which was a Rizzi play of Frank Crum, the 6'8" offensive lineman who got in there stuck those big Wyoming, paws up there and blocked the field goal kick. And then obviously, Will Lutz has been, frankly, an all-pro this year, for all the clutch kicks that he's been making. So he was fantastic. Sean Payton clearly has all the confidence in the world to look at him and say, hey, knock it through. So Will Lutz has been fantastic. The kick coverage had been fantastic against the Chiefs. All around, Marvin Mims, once again, welcome back. Maybe the best punt returner in the entire game. But the special teams unit was superb. If you listen, we've been critical of him the entire year, but if you were to have your best game, it has to be against the Chiefs, and they could not have asked for a better game from that special teams unit.
Absolutely. I think Darren Rizzi also answered pretty much every single question that we had. Hopefully they can keep it up, but special teams has been such a big factor this season, and it was a really big factor in that Raiders game. Denver having unfavorable field position because special teams was getting penalties, or they were having those unlucky punts on the part of AJ Cole, literally pinning them at the 1 yard line twice. Then you obviously had Jeremy Crawshaw with his struggles. He bounced back in this game as well. So, yeah, special teams, there was really nothing to complain about on that side either. They were sensational.
Yeah, they were fantastic. And welcome back, Marvin Mims. Maybe they can kind of dabble a little bit, into him and, talk a little bit about his, some of those plays and dabble a little bit. But, yeah, it was fantastic. That punt return was incredible. Like, it was a huge punt return. That flip field position and such a key moment of the early part of the game. So that was a huge return. All right. So let's kind of come back to, let's go back to this comment here. Will the Chiefs, to just kind of make this full circle a little bit here, will the Chiefs make the playoffs? Now, to preface it this way, right, Gage, is the Chiefs needed this game more, right? It was a big game for the Broncos, but the Chiefs needed this game more, and they failed. So now you had the Buffalo Bills game, right? The Bills game. Now you went on a bye, and Andy Reid lost after coming out of a bye, by the way. And so the Broncos beat the Chiefs coming after a bye. And now they're going to go face the Indianapolis Colts, who is also top 3 in the entire NFL right now. So quite a bit of a rough stretch right now for the Kansas City Chiefs. They really have to win out. Like, they have to win out to make the postseason, in my opinion.
They might have like 1 or 2 games they can give, but not many. Like this Indianapolis game, maybe they could drop that one, but they're going to have to beat Dallas, Houston, the Chargers, Tennessee, Denver on Christmas Day, which I don't think is going to happen, and then the Raiders on the road. Those are their opponents after this Indianapolis game. I'd say they've only got maybe 2 games for error here, and neither one of those games could be in the division as far as I'm concerned, because that would probably throw up tiebreakers for them. They could probably get in at 10-7, but I don't know if 9-8 is going to get them in. And I could see them dropping to Indianapolis. I could see them dropping to Denver, and I could possibly see them dropping to Houston as well. So, yeah, they've got some pretty unfavorable matchups on their schedule. And even if this Cowboys team that showed up last night against the Raiders shows up against them on Thanksgiving, then, yeah, man, they might be fucked.
I mean, they also have, and they're playing the Chargers at home, but they have the Chargers too. So it's just, yeah, it's one where they're going to need a lot to kind of come their way, if you will. But I think that when you look at the Kansas City Chiefs, they do play well at home.
They do.
They do play well at home.
And
And
1, 2, 3, 4 of these last 7 games for them are at Arrowhead.
yeah, so it's going to be interesting. And if there is a time for urgency, it is now. And so it is going to be quite fascinating to see. There's probably going to end up being a lot to talk about. And I think that given the fact that we don't necessarily have all of the crew and we're on a bye week, we'll probably save it for next week, I assume, in terms of like talking about the bye week as a whole and like that midway point in the season. But gosh, I think to this game that the Broncos had against the Chiefs, and obviously the Broncos had, like, as we said, for a full year has never really put forth a complete game, right? Like, have never really put forth a complete game. And they put forth their worst effort on Thursday, right? Like on Thursday. And I'll at least give a little bit of grace knowing the fact that they played the Houston Texans the week before, who've got a really, really good defense. And it was an elite defense, and that was a playoff-ish type atmosphere. And they came away in a game in the fourth quarter that frankly felt like that. Like it felt like a playoff game. Whether Davis Mills played or not, they came away with that victory. So I'll at least show some grace there. But they did have that rough game there, against the Raiders. But I would argue, Gage, that this was also, as we're saying, not just the most important game of the last 10 years, but also the most important game for this team moving forward, because now they should be able to have all the confidence in the world offensively to push forward now. So that's the side of this too, is if you're objectively looking at it from the Broncos side, if you pair this with an elite defense, the Broncos are going to be a very tough out. They might lose a game here and there, a game or two as things are kind of winding down. But this is going to be a very tough team in the playoffs with how they're playing defense. And if that is the kind of play that you're going to be seeing from Bo Nix, they're going to be incredibly tough to beat, because obviously where the way things are trending, they're the number one seed. They are the number one seed. And even if they're the number 2 seed, they're going to have home field. They're going to have home field advantage for at least a couple rounds. And that is a big deal for them. So they're going to be a tough out if this thing is going to be unfolding and the confidence is at an all-time high after that Chiefs game.
Yep. I'm already starting to stash away cash because I'm feeling like I'm going to have a couple of home playoff games that I'm going to have to get tickets for this year.
So how would you say, in terms of, though, like the fact that this Chiefs game could be the pivotal one? And I think arguments could be made for any point when you do fourth quarter comebacks. But given the fact that this game happened with the Chiefs, like, this could be that pivotal moment for the entire team and offense for them to really push things forward now for that, final push as things go for the playoffs.
I'd argue that was the most difficult game they've got remaining on their schedule. And by the time they play the Chiefs again, I did a video on this on my channel. There's a chance they could already have the number 1 seed almost on lock. So I don't know, man. They've got some really favorable games on their schedule. They've got the Commanders, who aren't playing very well. They've got the Raiders again. I think Denver's going to fare a lot better in this Raiders game with a full week of preparation as opposed to it being on a Thursday night game. Then you've got the Packers, the Jags, 2 teams where you're not really sure which version of them is going to show up on each given week. Is the good version or the bad version going to show up? And even if the good version shows up for both of those teams, I think Denver could very easily beat both of those guys. Then you've got the Chargers at home week 18 after that Chiefs game. By that point, Denver might be resting starters. Like, the Broncos very much control their own destiny. That's what this win bought them. That bought them the ability to control their own destiny. If they play their cards right, they could have this number 1 seed locked up pretty quickly.
One or two. like the number one seed or even the number 2 seed, and I wouldn't even rule that out just because the bye week's going to happen, and after the bye week, I think by all intents and purposes, the Patriots are going to end up. I think we could say win against the Cincinnati Bengals. Crazier things have happened, but but I think we're expecting a win there. And then after that point, that's the Patriots will be the number 1 team, in the NFL at that point. But like still, because we have to preface this again. We have to preface this again from a Broncos perspective before the season, and that was one of the goals, if not one of the goal, if you will, for this Bronco team was hosting a playoff game, right? Like, and whether that is winning a division and they go 11-5, right? Like, or winning a division and they're 9-7, right? Like, the fact is that they are on a trend where they are going to be hosting a playoff game. Now, but it doesn't change the fact that we are on a trajectory gauge where they will be hosting a playoff game, which that is already more positive in favor of where this team was a year ago.
Absolutely. But at this point, you've got bigger fish to fry. Like,
right.
You've got a legit shot at this number 1 seed. You've got a shot to punch your ticket to the divisional round before you even play a playoff game. That's what you should be chasing right now. And I look at the 2 teams that you're competing with right now for that spot. Indianapolis has a couple potential losses on their schedule. They've got Seattle and they've got San Francisco. Same thing with the Patriots.
And the
They've
Chiefs
got
too.
Baltimore and Buffalo.
And the Chiefs too.
So all of these games, man, that could spell trouble here. And I can't believe I'm saying this for this Colts and Chiefs game coming up, and makes me want to barf in my mouth a little bit. I think we as Broncos country probably need to be rooting for the Chiefs to win that game, because we're trying to get the number 1 seed, and Indianapolis has that head-to-head tiebreaker over us. We need Indianapolis to start dropping some games, and I hate it, but I'm going to actually be pulling for the Chiefs to win that game. Not so much the Chiefs to win, but for Indianapolis to lose. I'll even take a tie there, quite frankly. Tie will work just as good as a loss. So that's probably ultimately what I'm going to be pulling for, because I don't want a Kansas City win, but that's what we're talking about right now. We're not thinking about division anymore. We're talking about how can we get the number 1 or at worst number 2 seed.
I don't know, to quote Mahi Prophet, and if he's watching this show, I know he would be proud that I would bring this up. But according to his 10 commandments, one of his commandments says you cannot root for another team in the AFC West.
I'm not rooting for them to win. I'm rooting for their opponent to lose.
Right. No, I get it, but like that's one of his commandments. You can't root for another team in the AFC West to win a football game.
What doesn't matter. Broncos though.
So that's one of his 10 commandments. You can't. But
can't doubt Prophet, man.
No, but it's going to be an interesting game. It is going to be a very interesting game, and I'm definitely excited for it. I'm definitely really looking forward to the fact that now the chips are starting to kind of fall, and the Broncos, for what we're seeing, I think the tide is turning now for that offense. And because as much as we are rounding out the show here and to tie a bow on everything on this, it comes back to probably the point we mentioned it there, and it's such an important part because they're human like the rest of us, and they need rest like the rest of us. And they have been running ragged. You brought it up, and it was just such a great point because like they had been running ragged really since that London game. And so where it was nonstop, they could have gone and asked for the bye week after the London game. They did not. They went straight to Philadelphia at that point. Right. Or was it
No,
Giants?
it was Giants after that.
Yeah, it was Giants, and then it was the Philadelphia game after that or whatever. But I just think that like they have been running ragged, and specifically the time zone. For anybody that's never been out, outside of the country, that's an 8-hour time difference, right? Like that is an 8-hour time difference, and that can really screw you up. And if you are looking at from where the Broncos were on that Thursday night game, they didn't play great, but they also looked gassed. And I think that mini bye week, it was evident they were refreshed. They were, rejuvenized as a unit, and their bodies looked refreshed. And so I think that now having this other bye week, which according to Sean Payton, they are going to basically take the entire week off, right? Like he's told the staff, he's told the players that you can take the entire week off, through Sunday and be back here on Monday, right?
There's one guy I don't want to take off, though. I want Bo Nix to take this week and hone in on his footwork even more. Right. He needs to stay in town.
But still, you could argue the rest still affected him in such a positive way where he was rejuvenated. He was not flustered at all. And so this team really needed that reset. And they're going to have even another reset after the biggest game in the last 10 years.
Yep. And I think that's how Sean Payton wanted it, man. He wanted that mini bye coming in and the full bye coming out. He knew the stakes going into this game, and people were talking about how maybe Sean was saving some plays or saving some certain looks for that game.
Maybe. Very
possible, but more importantly, I think he wanted it to be bookended by rest.
Yeah. So it's going to be a fun one. Obviously, the Broncos are going to get a W on the bye week. So it's going to be a lot of fun getting the chance to kind of twiddle our thumbs and get a chance to see all the games unfold. And, who knows? We'll see if the chips kind of fall to what may on some of the games on the schedule. The Chiefs and the Colts is definitely probably the biggest game from a Broncos side of things on the docket on that one. But it's going to be a lot of fun. Get a chance to just really enjoy some NFL red zone that's not your own team, for it. So it's going to be a lot of fun. And to everybody that has been in this chat, I just want to say thank you. You guys are incredible. To, Broncos country, you guys are amazing. Again, make sure you guys follow both Gage and I. Gage does incredible work. Obviously, not just here on the 5280 podcast, but he does great work over there with Broncos Syndicate. Make sure you subscribe to him over there as well. At Gage Madrid NFL, they're over there on Twitter. You can follow me at Cameron Parker PO. Make sure you subscribe to the MHRT Network page. As I said, we are pushing for 2,000 subscribers, but like PTO, they roll over to the next year. So if we don't get to 2,000 subscribers, it rolls over to the next year, and we, push for 2,000 in 2026. We'd be remiss if we didn't talk about some of those other shows we do on the network. Fantastic shows right here on the network. We are going to be having another Broncos related show from myself, Jordan Lopez, and Brandon Miller tomorrow. Called the Mainly Broncos podcast that you guys can tune into at 7:30. I'm working through the details. I may or may not have Parker Gabriel on the show. I don't know if it's going to end up being tomorrow or next week. Given the fact it's the bye week, it's at least a good thing. And given the fact it's a bye week, it's a good time to actually get a chance to talk to the insiders and get a chance to get some information. So, again, we absolutely love you guys. Thanks again for the comments. And we will see you guys next week for celebrating a restful bye week.
Fast lane when I pass in the street, bag of money in the passenger seat. Tempo's been asking for me on the road from the west to the east. Way up, I might never come down, cause the coast racking up the flame out.